Hey up everyone! So continuing the London Film Festival coverage, today's movie I'm discussing on the channel is the big one, my #1 most anticipated film in the entire festival program. It was this year's recipient of the People's Choice Award at TIFF. It is of course Chloé Zhao's Hamnet. Powerful stuff. I'm gonna start this review by saying that if, like me, you don't know what the plot of Hamnet is, do yourself a favor and don't go researching beforehand what this film is about, okay? You're best off going into this film knowing as little about it as possible. Honestly, this film is gonna be a difficult one to discuss because so much of the plot feels like spoiler territory, especially if you don't know what's coming. So yeah, this is going to be a bread and butter review, okay? I'm not gonna give anything away, but I am going to encourage you guys to go watch this film, okay? This is one of the best films of 2025. So yeah, just go watch it. And I guess that's the review. No, I'm just kidding. Plot-wise, I'm going to give you the synopsis of IMDb, which reads as a powerful story of love and loss that inspired the creation of Shakespeare's timeless masterpiece, Hamlet. And yeah, that kind of is all the plot that you need to know, but I will give you a little bit more than that. Just off of hearing that, some of you might be wondering, why is this film called Hamnet instead of Hamlet? Well, there is a reason. This film opens with a quote that essentially says that back in 16th century, the names Hamnet and Hamlet were basically considered the same name, just give or take a letter. So yeah, the fact that these two names are interchangeable does come into the story, but I'm not gonna give you any more details than that. I feel like the best way to describe Hamnet is to think of it as William Shakespeare fan fiction. Like, Hamnet is essentially a fictionalized origin story of how William Shakespeare came to write his timeless classic Hamlet. This film is an adaptation of Maggie O'Farrell's book of the same name, and Maggie O'Farrell also helped Chloé Zhao to co-write the screenplay for this film. Most people know the name William Shakespeare, even if you're not familiar with his works. Odds are you've probably heard of his name. And what's funny about Shakespeare is whilst his work has absolutely stood the test of time and has made him immortal in a sense, what we actually know about William Shakespeare, the man, and his life is actually quite spotty at best. Historians have tried to fill in the blanks about his personal life, but there's so much of it which isn't concrete, it's all speculative. And in the world of entertainment, we've seen lots of different ideas and interpretations as to what his personal life was like, or where he got the inspiration for particular plays from, like in that TV series Will, and I guess to an extent Shakespeare in Love. And Hamnet is just another interpretation, okay? It is fiction, but it's based around real people, that being Shakespeare and his family and friends. In Chloé Zhao's Hamnet, William Shakespeare is played by Mescal, who is an aspiring playwright in his 20s, but his father is a bit disappointed in him. He thinks he's useless because he hasn't gone into family trade of being a glove manufacturer and salesperson. So yeah, Will's a bit of an outsider even in his own family. And he meets an enchanting woman named Agnes, played in this film by Jessie Buckley, who is labelled by the villagers as the daughter of a forest witch. So yeah, she's kind of an outsider in her community because the women in her family can see things that others can't. They're very much connected to nature. In fact, the opening shot of this film is a bird's eye view shot of Jessie Buckley's Agnes curled up in the fetal position, like in the roots of this big tree. It's a very symbolic shot of both motherhood and Mother Nature. But yeah, she's just having a little nap in the forest as you do. But yeah, she is a woman of many surprising skills, like she can summon hawks as well as make herbal remedies from plants and other things found in the forest. And on top of that, you can also label her as Shakespeare's muse. Because when they meet, like young lovers do, they have that swooning romance of Romeo and Juliet, and guess what William goes home to write on parchment paper that very night? So yeah, the creative juices are flowing for Will when Agnes is around, so what's a boy to do but to propose to her on top of a pile of shit? Yep, that happens. He proposes to her on a pile of dung. But to be fair, if Mescal proposed to me on a pile of shit, I'd say yes in a heartbeat. But yeah, they end up getting married and he's pumping out the plays while she's pumping out the kids. Okay, they have a lovely little family together. Will starts taking his plays to London to be seen by the public, and all seems well, that is, until tragedy strikes the family. I mean, is it ever Shakespeare without some tragedy? But trust me, when the tragedy hits, it hits hard. But that's the thing, you kind of do feel this sense of foreboding doom that something bad is going to happen after Agnes and Will start having kids, because for like good 20 minutes, Chloé Zhao lets us bask in this happy family's life, okay? They're putting plays on for their mother in the backyard, like doing the Three Witches scene from Macbeth for Agnes, and like Will's doing like little fencing, sword fighting scenes in the back garden with his son, and it's just oh so cute. But yeah, Chloé Zhao puts in the time to make you care about this family, which is why when the fallout comes like in the middle part of this film, it is brutal. But weirdly, even when the tragedy does come and you kind of know it's coming, it still kind of took me by surprise because Zhao does a pretty good job of like misdirecting you throughout. Like there's certain bits in this, I won't say what, which feel like foreshadowing, but they're kind of red herrings. But yeah, it didn't unfold the way I thought it was going to. But yeah, like every film to come out in 2025, Hamnet is a film that is tackling the subject of grief and the chasm that it can leave within us when it happens, and how we find ways to navigate through it and try to heal. And coincidentally, Hamnet shares a similar theme to another one of this year's best films, which was Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value. If you haven't seen it, I'll pop a link up here. It's so good. But yeah, they're both films which explore this idea of how we can use art and creative expression to find a way for us to heal from grief. What's amazing about Hamnet is how Chloé Zhao has managed to make a film which feels both heavy and also delicate. She has an impeccable grasp of tone in Hamnet, and her direction manages to find this lovely sweet spot where it feels very naturalistic, but also kind of poetic and theatrical. A scene that comes to mind, which is a great example of this, is the scene where Agnes is giving birth to her first child in the forest, and she's doing all these deep breaths, and it's almost like the forest is coaching her through the birthing, because it feels like both she and the forest are breathing in unison. Like as she inhales and exhales, the sound of the wind blowing through the trees feels like nature itself is breathing with her, okay? It's so poetically shot, and it reiterates the idea that she is tethered to nature, okay? She is connected to Mother Earth in this moment. Also, the concept of grief is very much reflected in the visual language that Zhao brings to the screen. Zhao uses symbolic imagery to illustrate the dark void within the characters after tragedy strikes. There's a very significant shot which takes place just after Agnes has given birth to the first baby in the forest, and Will is holding the baby and he's staring into this cave that's in the forest, okay? It's this big black hole surrounded by foliage, and later this is echoed in the set design of Shakespeare's latest play, The Tragedy of Hamlet. I don't want to say too much, but this dark doorway that you see on the stage of Will's latest play is very significant, okay? It represents a few things, okay? It represents that limbo space between life and death. It also represents how lost the characters feel, like lost amongst the forest, you know, trying to navigate through the grief and through the darkness. And it also beautifully harkens back to an earlier scene in the film where Agnes asks William to tell her a story that he loves, and he chooses to tell her about the Greek tragic myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, where Orpheus had to travel to the underworld to retrieve his deceased lover Eurydice, and Hades allowed him to do so on the one condition that on his journey back up to the surface world, he wasn't allowed to look back to see if Eurydice was there or she would be lost forever. And during the play, you do see a character looking back through the dark void, but it's not a moment of tragedy. It's actually one of acceptance and peace. So in a weird way, this black void also represents hope. The entire play sequence at the Globe Theatre is the climax of this film, and this is where it really ties everything together. And I never thought watching a character, watching a play could be so enthralling. Is this why people watch Gogglebox? They say that great acting is reacting, and it truly is astounding to watch Jessie Buckley react to the beauty, the pain, and the power of her husband's theatrical production. Watching her watching this play is a journey for her character, but it's also a journey for us. And by the time the curtain falls, you feel this sense of peace begin to wash over Agnes. This film's ending is so effective because grief is a part of the human experience, okay? It's something that we've all experienced or will inevitably experience. And Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal's performances are so beautifully empathetic that you kind of vicariously feel everything that they feel as it unfolds on stage. I've had to think about it, and I think Hamnet may genuinely be the most cathartic ending to a film that I've seen in 2025. When the film finished and the credits started to roll, I just had to take a minute to like sit there and absorb it all in, because I was this mix of like contradicting feelings. Like I was happy, but I was also devastated. I was hurting and I was healing. I was this big old pile of smushy feelings, and it's been a while since a film made me feel this kind of way. This film was powerful. Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal are at their finest here. They both have an extensive background in theatre, but over the last few years have become two of the most in-demand actors for cinema, and This film is like the perfect project for them, which just meets beautifully at the intersection of theatre and cinema. Given their backgrounds, it just plays perfectly into their strengths as actors. You guys know that Paul Mescal is my guy, okay? I absolutely love him as an actor, and this is the type of role that he thrives in, the one where he's playing a character crippled by sadness. He's had a lot of practice playing depressing characters in little indie films, and he really has become like the master of displaying sadness like internally. He's just very good at conveying that within. So it comes as no surprise that he is amazing here. But Jessie Buckley, I feel like there's no other word to describe her performance than transcendent. The role of Agnes is undoubtedly a career highlight for Jessie Buckley. This role demanded so much from Jessie Buckley, and she gives it everything she has. What's amazing about this performance is that it's one of so many different levels and volumes. Like, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of scenes in this where Jessie Buckley is bringing the emotion, and like you see her wailing in agony and crying. But I'll be honest, it was the scenes towards the end of this film which I found to be the most impressive display of acting from Buckley, because the last act of this film is essentially us watching Agnes watching the play. So she doesn't have that much dialogue, but Buckley takes us on that journey with her, because as she's watching, she's kind of processing the grief, and she manages to show us that through her facial expressions, and she speaks volumes with her eyes, okay? You feel everything that she's feeling, okay? It's that journey of, agony to sweet cathartic release, and she took us there, and that's what's amazing about the performance, is that she did that without any dialogue, essentially. It was outstanding. I honestly don't think I have been more moved by a leading actress performance all year. It wouldn't surprise me if Jessie Buckley just sweeps the entire award season next year. Arguably, it's the performance of 2025, okay? Not just in Best Actress, but the entire year. And she deserves all the accolades that are coming her way. Academy Award winner Jessie Buckley. Sounds about right to me. Speaking of Oscars, how is Hamnet gonna play at the 2026 Oscars? The answer is very. Hamnet is this year's tearjerker pick, okay? It's going to resonate with audiences, and I think the Academy are going to nominate it in a lot of categories. The categories where I think Hamnet is a lock for a nomination are definitely Best Picture, because it won the People's Choice Award at TIFF, Best Director for Chloé Zhao, Best Adapted Screenplay, also for Chloé Zhao, Best Actress for Jessie Buckley. Paul Mescal's just announced he's going Best Supporting Actor. He's definitely getting in for this as well. Best Casting as well. I think it was Nina Gold who cast this film, but yeah, the casting is spot on, not only with Buckley and Mescal, but this has a wonderful ensemble, which includes Joe Alwyn, Emily Watson. Also, the kids in this were incredible. In particular, Jakobi Jupe. He's the younger brother of Noah Jupe, who you might know from the A Quiet Place movies. But yeah, Noah Jupe also has a small part in this. They're both great in this, and the fact they were sort of cast alongside each other was a really smart move on Nina Gold's part. As for other locks, I would say costume design and production design are very safe bets. Okay, this is a period piece of a lot of frilly, elaborate costume design. I'm sure it will get in, and also because it's a film centered around the theatre and a play, sets play a very integral part to the story. Even though a lot of it's like shot outside in nature, when this film does use sets, they are really key parts of the story. So yeah, I feel like it probably will get into production design. Other categories where it's very likely to be nominated: editing, cinematography, and also sound. Composer Max Richter does reuse his famous piece on the nature of daylight in this film. You guys might recognize that piece from other projects like The Last of Us, The Handmaid's Tale, and probably more prominently Arrival. And because it's reusing another piece of music, I thought maybe that would make this film ineligible for score, but no, it can qualify for score because the majority of the score for this film is an original composition. So as long as the film's got a majority of new music, it's fine, it's eligible. So yeah, I could see it probably getting nominated for score. So yeah, for Hamnet, I'm anticipating we'll be looking at least 7 or 8 nominations guaranteed, but it could receive upwards of 10, maybe more, we'll see. But yeah, what do you guys think? How many Oscar noms is Hamnet gonna get? Is it gonna win in any categories? Whatever you have to say, let your voice be heard in that comment section down below. Do I have any negatives for Hamnet? Not many massive ones, but I will say it would have been nice to have maybe heard a new piece of music from Max Richter rather than, relying on the same go-to piece of music, which has, become synonymous for this is your moment to cry in the movie. Don't get me wrong, it is a beautiful piece of music, and where it's positioned in Hamnet is lovely, it's effective, but yeah, it almost in a way feels like Max Richter's using it as a crutch. But yeah, that's all I can really think of when it comes to negatives. All right then, it's time to ask them 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch it again? Yeah. Even though I know this is not an easy watch, it is certainly an effective one. But also the caliber of the performances in this film, particularly Jessie Buckley, are just that good that I know I'm gonna want to come back and rewatch this many more times. So yeah, I'll be watching it again, and yeah, you can expect to see it on the wall at some point. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? I already said yes, I feel like everyone should go watch this movie, okay? Don't go researching it, okay? Just go see it, go experience it. It is one of the best movies of the year, and it's probably gonna show up in my top 10 favorite movies of the year vid. If you're a fan of award season, then this is a must watch, but also if you're a fan of the works of Shakespeare, Chloé Zhao, or any other talent in this, then yes, go watch it, okay? This is Chloé Zhao at the peak of her powers. This is Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal at their finest. This is career-defining work for all of them, okay? So don't miss it. Go watch it in a cinema when it comes out. And third question, what score am I gonna give it out of 10? Incredible film, guys. Like, after somewhat of a misstep for Chloé Zhao with Eternals, it's so nice to see her back on top with a film like Hamnet. I think I would go as far as saying that this is my personal favorite of Chloé Zhao's films that she's made. This film really did live up to the hype, okay? It's a really, really wonderful film. So I'm gonna give Hamnet a score of 9 out of 10. But as always, guys, it is just one bloke's opinion. I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Hamnet? Are you excited about it? Have you seen it? If you have, what did you make of this film? What are its Oscars chances? Whatever to say, let your voice be heard in that comment section down below. If you enjoyed the review, help me out by hitting the little thumbs up button for me. It's good for helping my channel to grow. And if you want more movie, TV, and Oscars-related content, don't forget to click that subscribe button for us. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.